All right. How's it going, everyone? It's Cody and John with Nothing But Cardboard. And as you can see, we have a third face here that is not John without the H. He has not had a complete makeover. This is PaullyDoughnuts. But before we get into this and introduce him, Paul, this is NBC Talk episode number 2. And this is coming to everyone by high demand of figuring out or knowing how to better use Twitter for buying and selling sports cards. We get this comment all the time on our YouTube videos, primarily because I plug it all the time now. I found that this platform has been extremely good at getting great cards for relatively cheap or even at comp, and they've always been quality. But instead of providing my own input or John's input from using Twitter, we're pulling out some big guns here. So this is one of the most infamous and reputable Twitter seller that I know of, and his name, Paul, aka PaullyDoughnuts. So, Paul, why don't you take a second, say hi to everyone.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Pleasure to be on the podcast. It's the NBC second one, but it's my first, and hopefully I don't mess it up.
We're all at risk at doing that right now, Paul. So we'll
That's
kind
right.
of share that responsibility. So. We have a couple questions for Paul today that we kind of accumulated either from YouTube comments or just something that we wanted some further clarification on. So I'm actually going to let John ask the first couple questions, and then we'll go from there.
So, Paul, tell us about yourself. Like, how did you get into the hobby and collecting? How long have you been doing it?
Well, I used to do it like most people when they were a kid, and I did it like crazy as much as I could afford, my family could afford and whatnot. I remember my old man taking me to card shows and stuff, heavily into the 90s, and then it just kind of fizzled away with trying to work out, play football, basketball, pick up chicks and that kind of thing. And it was like, yeah, I don't need to mess with cards anymore. Time went on, life went on, joined the Navy, a whole bunch of other things, and then me and my family moved out here to Texas, and one night Last Dance came out, and I was like, you know what, I want to. I'm originally from Chicago, as you can see. This guy over here, he's pretty good, and watching Last Dance got super nostalgic and everything, and so I'm on eBay I'm digging around for cards, and I found in 90 Skybox hobby boxes, the iconic Jordan picture, one of the Jordan cards is in there. And I'm kind of like looking at what people are selling things for, and I was like, wait, these cards are going for this much money? This is before I knew how to look up what has sold and that kind of stuff. So I bought 2 hobby boxes for $40. They came in the mail few days later, and my wife's watching The Last Dance with me, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, I'm opening cards, it's cool, and she's like, okay. Little did she know this was going to turn into like a thing. And so I ripped the packs. I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I got Jordan, that's so sick, blah blah blah. She's like, so what are you gonna do with all those? I'm like, I don't know. And I basically just put them away, and I decided, okay, there's got to be other cards out there. Let me go to Target. And I'm looking around, and I can remember going to, shop at Target or shop at Walmart. And this is the story for most people. Prior to the flip game, you go in, you buy whatever you want. As much of it as you wanted. It wasn't like Hoarder Central.
Yeah.
And I get into Target, and I'm looking around, I'm like, where the fuck are all these cards, man? I remember standing in line looking over and go, huh, they still sell basketball cards? That's so weird, And it was wiped clean. So finally a lady saw me coming in there, and she goes, oh, you're never going to get those. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're never going to get them. I said, in my head, I'm going, lady, you don't know who you're talking to here, what's going on in my brain when you tell me that. So she goes, no, there's people that camp out here all day for the vendor to come. I'm like, no, they don't. That's ridiculous. And sure enough, I kind of just put in the time, and I looked on OfferUp, and I'm looking on eBay, and now I know how to find out how much something is sold for. And I go, wait a second, that box was $30 and it sold for $150. What is happening? And I'm like, that's nuts. And quite frankly, I want a piece of this pie. I mean, that's, I thought it was just insane that you could walk into a store, pay $30 for something, sell it to someone else for triple the price. And people were doing it, and you were able to make that money without even blinking an eye, I know, because one of my friends that I in the hobby now, I bought a flip from him, so I bought, I was on OfferUp, and I'm like, oh, Absolute Football. I know, don't laugh at me now, I grab, I'm like, yeah, Absolute Football. This stuff looks cool. There's an autograph inside that's nuts, and there's memorabilia cards, like I'm a fucking goofball. So I go meet him in a parking lot, $160 for a mega box, hand him the cash, take the box, get home, ripping through it, get the autograph. I think it was, I could find out who the auto was. It was a bear, so I was like super excited. It was worth $1,
D-line,
and
offensive lineman.
yes, yeah. And then the mem card was like Eno Benjamin or something. And
rough.
So I get the cards, and now my wife's looking at me again. She's like, okay, what are you going to do now with the cards? I'm like, well, I guess I can sell them on eBay, and that's kind of where my hobby journey exploded from. And then, I could keep going and going about all the stories that led me to where I am right now.
Very similar. I did the same thing, and then when I got married, the wife's like, put them away, stuck stuff in the attic, and then when it caught on, dug the stuff out and started redoing it. So did you keep a lot of your stuff from when you were a kid and you did it with your dad, or what happened to that stuff?
Great follow-up question. So me and my father had a very big falling out when I was 16, and never spoke to him again. Stopped speaking to him for, till the day that he died, spoiler alert. And I found out, I wasn't even into cards at the time. I was still in the Navy. My wife told me when I got home from work one day, I found out he passed away. I was sad, mad, all these emotions, and then time went on and I got into cards again, and I'm like sitting there going, wait a second, I got to have thousands of cards that right now I know for a fact there was at least 5 Griffey Upper Deck rookie cards. God knows the condition, but I know they were in there. And that was like the small pickings. I don't think I had any autographs. I don't think I was thinking about that as a kid. A kid, you're just like the card, the picture, the guy, that you're collecting. And so I sent a message to my cousin who lives in Chicago, and I'm like, hey, can you get in contact with my dad's ex-wife? I'm wondering if he still has all my comic books and cards. I'd love to have them back right now. Excuse me. And she messages her, and all gone. And either, like most people did, they got hip to the game and realized there might be some bucks inside those boxes, and maybe her son dug through them and already, who knows? I might have bought them again and sold them in a stack sale somewhere, for Christ's sakes. But yeah, it gets me every time I think about it, because I'm like, God damn it. I know there's some good stuff in there. I would like to actually just, now that I know more about it, I would like to see what was in there, see what cool stuff I had. I remember going to the card shop when I was a kid and going through the penny boxes and getting like the unlicensed Jordan cards, like Superman Jordan and all that kind of BS cards, that are worth nothing. But honestly, now, I see them at the shows for $5 and I'm like, yep, that's about right.
And if you get them graded, they're worth even more.
Yeah, exactly.
So would you consider yourself a collector, investor, or are you kind of a hybrid? You do both?
Hybrid, collector, investor, seller. Like I have cards that if the house was burning down, I'm grabbing, the one card and hitting the road, and everything else can just let it burn.
And who is that? Or what is that?
It's Pat Tillman Downtown Optic. It was like the card that, not the card that really I guess I could backtrack. The card, if I fast forward that story after buying that Absolute mega box and really getting into stack selling, what I do now, the card that kind of like brought me into the hobby was 2020 Topps Ronald Acuna Jr. I saw it in a picture, and he's doing this pose, and something about it freaking like laser beamed me into the hobby 1,000,000%. I'm like, they're taking fucking pictures like this. I gotta have these cards. And I remember I was working on the Topps Chrome Rainbow for a hot minute, and it became an impossible task for me to complete. So now I still heavily collect Ronnie and, you know, Jordan, Giannis, and a few other people, Derrick Rose, Kobe. And yeah, he was like the guy. And my close friends know that I'm not a huge baseball guy. Like, I don't watch baseball. I watch stuff in baseball, but I can't read you off the litany of stats of players. Not even Ronald Acuna, you know, or Ken Griffey. But sure as hell, I love going to a baseball game. But I won't sit there and be like, babe, shut up. It's game 95,000. I got to watch it, you know. No offense to the baseball lovers out there. But it's just never my thing. It never was. So when it became a baseball player that I had like this large affliction with, all my friends are like, are you okay, man? Are you going through like a midlife crisis or something? When are you buying the Corvette and shit? You know, like, you're buying cards of dudes, you know? I'm like, yeah, this is just what we're doing, man. And that became kind of the real tipping point. And I forgot where I was going on the other point, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I like it. And that's the neat thing about collecting is you can collect whatever you want. Each person, doesn't matter what other people say, you collect what you want. And Pat Tillman, I can see you were in the Navy, correct?
Yeah, 10 years.
Well, appreciate that. Happy Veterans Day. I don't know when this is going to go out, but we appreciate your service. But a lot of people might not know about Pat Tillman, that he actually quit football to go back into service at a service country. And that's one of the reasons you probably like that guy. So that's cool.
For sure. It was, you know, and that's what you're asking about, collecting and investing. Yeah, it's, I have a few other cards that are in, you know, not up on that level of how I feel about it, but there's like an emotional thing there. I love the idea of it. Yeah, that's the card for me. But then there's, I don't want to jump the gun, but I feel like when you're buying and selling cards, there's like a happy point. You can either get highly overextended and do all this prospecting, investing, and hoping. If you have the financial stability to do that kind of stuff, rock on, brother. Like, do it all day. And I think people should. Like, if I was Drake or Puff Daddy or, you know, any of these people, Derek Jeter, you know, name all the, you know, you name your rich person, especially sports figures. I think they should have a guy that literally is just they have their investment portfolio, and then they have their sports card guy, and they're like, hey, give me $1 million. I'm going to prospect on some of these things, and we can have some fun. Also, be another tax write-off for you there, rich guy. And we might lose, but we at least won't feel it. Now, the people that are taking out like small business loans to buy like massive big baller cards and hoping that it's going to happen, my heart goes out to them, because I couldn't deal with the stress, man. And I flew in the back of a fucking helicopter for 10 years. So I even when I go to the Dallas show, like which I just did, I look at some tables and nothing ever changes, which, hey, that's for some people, you know, some of their tables are just the same. And I'm not like poo-pooing on them, but I do look at it and kind of go, man, I wonder if you sold a card, you know, or is that just your collection? You're just displaying it, which, dude, it's some shit you see and I sometimes just ask, can I hold it for a second and just look at it, man? Because that's crazy. I can't believe you even have that. So yeah, that's my collector investor shtick, you know.
It's funny that
I definitely think everybody should collect. I don't think you should just be, it's not just a money grab, you know. I do like making money. I think everybody likes making money, and anybody that says that they don't mind if they hit a big card, a 1-on-1. I hit a 1-on-1 of Max Fried. It's the only 1-on-1 I ever hit. I had no idea who the hell the guy was, okay, when I hit the card. posted on Twitter. People were like, "Holy shit, that's crazy!" And I'm like, "Yeah, 101. That's pretty nuts, man." And they're like, "No, no, no, that's badass. What'd you get it out of them?" I got it out of a blaster at Target, so super cool. But should I have given that card away or should I have sold that card? Like it's, you can't shit on the guy for wanting to make a buck, so the investor side of me is like, yeah, I think you should invest. But the collector side of me, if it was Ken Griffey 101, it's not leaving the house. Yeah. Everything has a price, but
true.
All the cards got a price, maybe except for like a Michael Jordan auto, 1 of 1 that you're never ever going to find again. Maybe I guess that has a price if $10 million rolls around, your front door.
That might be convincing enough.
So, yeah. Same with McTillman. So, someone wants to pay off my house, here, I'll buy another one.
It's funny that you bring up the downtown because that came from Donruss Optic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the first card that got...
Sure did.
When I was a kid, I personally didn't collect sports cards. It was all like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. When I got into collecting, it was 2017, but I was buying product that was off the shelf, readily available, right? And I got a subscription box, and the card that hooked me into the hobby, it's my first subscription box, was with Dak Prescott, Donruss Optic Auto. And I was like, okay, I'm hooked. And I went nuts into the hobby. So, you were saying people taking out small business loans, man. I maxed out that credit card in 2017 in a hurry. And now, those cards treat me well. But, to your point, it is extremely important that in the hobby we have not only investors and sellers, but collectors. Because at the end of the day, people are going to continue to collect, and that's what's going to keep the hobby strong. So if everyone's buying and selling, I mean, the market's going to be all over the place, but what's truly going to keep the hobby going forward is collectors. So I think that's extremely important that you just said. So now let's transition to a little bit more specific outside of the personal life and more online with this exact episode with Twitter. So if you guys have been watching, I have mentioned Twitter. I've plugged in numerous times about purchasing cards there instead of the infamous FeeBay. So one of the individuals, Paul, he actually sells cards on Twitter, and he actually calls it stack sales. That's a form of selling on Twitter. So the first question I have for you, Paul, is how long have you been using Twitter to buy and sell cards? And then if you could also tell the viewers, what is a stack sale and how do you manage that?
Okay. Well, I've been on Twitter for a while, way before the hobby. And once I got back into the hobby, I started kind of poking around, and I kind of, those channels kind of found me through however the algorithm was working to push that, because it could tell that through whatever it was connecting to that I was getting back into cards. Excuse me. And I found other people doing these card sales. And I was like, okay, let me join. And one of the first people I joined was definitely Dixon Cards. Okay. He's a stack sale on Twitter, a stack seller on Twitter. OG, fantastic seller. Always has really cool stuff from high end to low end. And I was buying from him. And what he would let me do, what he lets everybody do. Buy a card, you stack it. So you stack it throughout the month or for however long the sale goes for. So let's say October 1st to October 31st. October 31st, they're going to send you an invoice. Throughout that month of October, though, he had been posting sales. So, boom, I buy a card. Boom, I buy a card. And everyone has their own rules. I don't want to speak for him, but I think his rules were 20% or something like that, and you could keep your stack open. Everyone's got their own thing. Personally, for me, I do them kind of monthly. And so my customers or whoever sees me stuff, they see a card that I post, they write the words, whatever I tell them to write to acquire the card. Usually it's the word take. And then I'll reply yours, and I'll put it in my spreadsheet and stuff after the sale, and then it goes in a team bag and goes into like a if you see over my shoulder right here, that's where everybody's stacks are for 2 nights ago. I started this month's sales.
Okay.
And I basically just, you build up your stack, and if you want an update, like, hey, how much have I spent? Because honestly, you can lose track. And it,
Yep.
that's a whole nother topic, that I probably would get in trouble if I started getting into that. But it goes with it. It's a part of the business. And when I found that, I was like, well, this is awesome. And this kind of dials back into when my wife was asking me, well, what are you going to do with all these cards? And I tried to sell on eBay and was, making $1 and, because of the fees and stuff.
Yeah.
So I decided one night, fuck it, I could maybe do a stack sale. I had like 300 followers and I made $4. I posted 100 cards. I sold $4 in cards. And my wife's like, how was it? And I'm like, made $4. She's like, nice, don't buy any more cards. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try it again though. So I kept going, and we can get into the history of my stack selling world. But yeah, that's basically what a stack sale is. And Twitter is a fantastic place it's the best place to do a stack sale. I don't have Instagram. I don't have Facebook. I think you could do it on Facebook, a little easier than Instagram, but I hate Facebook. It's not like a weird political thing. It's just I really don't like it. And Instagram, I think you could do it. I don't know. I just think Twitter works well for that.
Yeah, it's super
even though it's a wild, wild west.
Yeah, so real quick, I guess let me follow up with 2 questions here. So if the algorithm didn't identify, was it Dixon Sales? Is that the name?
Yeah, Dixon Cards.
Dixon
Mm-hmm.
Cards. So
there is a plethora. Sorry to interrupt you. There is a plethora of other fantastic sellers on Twitter. So many avenues of super high end. Like guys like Ryan's Cards.
Mm-hmm.
To people that are selling 25-cent cards, to guys that do like an auction style. I wish I had everybody's damn name, that I could name drop in here, but that would, drive everybody crazy. But if you write in the word stack sale,
yeah,
or if someone DMs me like, hey, who can you refer me to? I have a list that you could just be like, bam, 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 check these guys out. Even a simple post, hashtag the hobby, looking for stack sales to get involved in, first time buyer here. Can you refer me to any? And tag, whoever you want in the hobby. You will definitely get answers, and it'll be thousands of responses. Because there's so many good sellers, and people have their people that they like spending money with.
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt you.
So no, but that was exactly what I was getting to. Is if the algorithm didn't identify the stack sailor, how could someone, or you in that specific situation, find someone to where you can watch them or watch their account to find those stack sales? Because you didn't mention it, but some of these stack sailors are doing it on a daily basis for the whole month, right, as you would say, or however long their stack sale is, and they're usually posting at a certain time of day. So if you are not on it, if you are not present during that stack sale, the likelihood of you getting a card for a great price, or even at comps, is slim to none. Like Paul, I was actually involved in one of your stack sales, and if I wasn't present, constantly refreshing, there's no way I would have gotten the cards, because you just have a following and people are monitoring it like crazy. So thank you for that recommendation. I will definitely be plugging your information so that if anybody would like to either follow you, purchase from you, or just get some recommendations from you, they can reach out directly. So let's transition here, because you kind of commented about your experience with stack sales and how to find them, but what would be your recommendation for someone who is looking to sell on Twitter, since we've kind of touched on the buying side? What would you recommend that they do, or that they prepare for, so that they don't make some simple mistakes in the beginning?
Man, there's so many things. I think number one is patience. You are not, I don't think you can you shouldn't go and look at someone's stack sale. Like, if you look at, Big Dog or myself or Dixon, some of the people with a good amount of followers, Ryan's cards, I think he's got like 20,000 followers. I got like almost 6,000 or almost 7,000, something like that. You start getting up into those 7,000s, 10,000s of followers. Your engagements are spiking a little bit better than someone with 500, 100 followers. And you might, like you just said, if you don't have the notifications on, if you're not refreshing all the time, you're missing the cards. Well, if you're a first-time seller and you see that can get like hyper discouraging. I literally just told you my first sale, $4, and I could have easily been like, well, fuck this, I'm out. But if you're patient and consistent and willing to put in the work, like with everything in life, I think you can be successful. That is a huge point. Another huge point is try to be original. Just because I see, I would say Dixon was highly instrumental in getting my feet on the ground when I had questions, when I really was trying to make this a business, because that's what it is now for me. Like I started a sole prop this year. I am still a collector, but this is my job. This is my business. Is basically a cardboard curator in a way. Like not the great curator, but just that you're kind of like showing people art and they're buying it for their house, whether they're buying it as an investment, hoping that they bought that $55 pink optic Joe Burrow the other night, and they're hoping that Joey B makes another run at the Super Bowl and that card becomes 150 right before the Super Bowl. Hey, no bust on me. I really don't care. It is what it is right now. I'm not going to become, excuse me, where's my other $100? That's the name of the game. Yeah. But don't get discouraged. Be patient. Be original. And when I say be original, the reason I brought up Dixon, because he kind of gave me some of his ideas. But I don't want to look exactly like him. Why the hell is someone going to want to buy from me when they're already buying from him? I don't want to look like insert your famous snack seller or podcaster or sneaker maker, clothing designer. Yes, you want elements. It's always good to have elements and take some of their things that they do really well and be like, I think I can add a little bit of that, but I don't want to be a fucking carbon copy of the next guy. Yeah. Start small. Maybe Twitter's a great spot to buy and sell cards. It's not always the easiest spot to be moving cards that are 500 and up. No matter your following, I guess if you got 20,000 followers, it definitely helps because people are kind of knowing what you're selling. But eBay still, for getting the most eyes on product, fucking eBay gets you, man, because you can move big cards. Soccer as well, for some weird reason. Soccer moves way better on eBay than it does on Twitter. Those would be some of my big ones. And like I said, I started at $4. My next sale I think was like $75. Then I sold a 2020 Topps Chrome Luis Robert for $4, and I think the comp was $10 at the time or something. People were losing their minds. Like I was giving away gold bricks. I'll never forget. They're like, do you fucking have another one? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And they're like, sweet, $4. I'm like, $4, and I kind of kept doing that for a little bit. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. Like people are into that stuff. So I took that, okay, noted. Maybe once in a while, give a card, sell a card for a cheaper price. I don't really do the giveaway thing. I give away cards in my sales. I try to always be at what the comps are, what the sold comps are on eBay. That's what I always base it off of. If it's something super austere and weird of a card that you can't find, it's out of 10 and it's Brock Lesnar, you're going to make the comp off of what the to 25 did or to 50 did. Have competitive prices, but you don't need to be if the comp is $10, you don't be the guy that's selling it for 20 because that's just weird. Like we all have phones, man. Like we can look. And if the card is $10, it's your prerogative if you want to sell it for $1. I got it. Fine. That's super cool of you. But sell it for what the comp is, or what, if you got a shipping thing where your shipping is $1.50, so you charge, $8.50 for the card. Okay, that's what you're doing. Cool. That brings me into another point. Have your shipping set up. Like, are you going to only do PWE? Are you only going to do PWE as plain word envelope for, people that don't know, or bubble mailer with tracking? Are you going to just do that? There was a point where I was doing both. And if you took one card, it was always PWE. If you took more than four, if you took 1 to 3 cards, it was always PWE. If you took more than 4, it was going bubble mailer. But I wasn't worried about the dollar amount. Well, I had a few people, one, I'm 100% sure he was scamming me. There was like a Jordan Nawara Optic Mojo, cool card. I hit it in a break. I sold it for like $80. And he was like, oh, PWE. And I go, kind of against my, like, even then I was still thinking it was fine. I said, okay, cool. Sent it PWE, send me the cash. Hey, man, card still hasn't shown up. Hasn't shown up. And it was Jordan Nawara. So I don't know if he was prospecting, thinking Jordan Nawara was going to be a straight-up baller, which he's playing pretty good, I think, right now. But he's not Tyrese Halliburton or one of these guys from that rookie year that were kind of sleek-ish, and they kind of hit like a little uptick, So I didn't know if he had buyer's remorse or something. And whatever, I refunded him everything. I said, hey, from that, one, and mentally I'm like, okay, don't do that shit again. 2, here's your money. Have a nice day. Great life. So I've changed my rules now, and it's, 1 to 3 cards. It can go PWE, but if your stack's over $20, it's going bubble mailer. Yeah. That's just, it is what it is. So I think have your shipping set up, have your little shtick. I've had people use my hashtag get to stacking before, and people have like DM'd me. They're like, hey, he's using your hashtag. And I'm like, is it my hashtag? Yes, yes, it's my hashtag, but it's not like those aren't my words. Like I don't own the words get to stacking. Yeah. But that goes back into the originality thing, right? Right. So you could use that, but in a way you're kind of promoting me. I think a couple of guys have done it as a joke. Not really. They've told me before, they're like, I'm going to use your hashtag, just see what people do. Yeah. And sure enough, people have used it, and I'll get like 10 DMs like, hey, man, he's using your hashtag. I'm like, hey, it's all right, And I think one guy one night, he was using it, and I laughed. He's like, what's so funny? And I was like, whoa, dude, like, I am just messing right now, and you're using what I write. I literally write it with every fucking post, every sales post. So it's kind of funny. The guy ended up being totally chill about it. He's like, oh, sorry, man, and I gave him the originality speech, and I'm like, yeah, just do your own thing, man. Like, we're all selling cards. You know that you're going in the product you're selling. I have this silly card right here. You're selling this picture of a guy to a whole bunch of other, mostly guys. Shout out to some of the girls that buy from me. Texas Yaz and Sarah Beasy are a couple of them. So you got to differentiate yourself somehow, some way. And it can come off as too gimmicky. Sometimes I even find myself writing stuff and I'm like, okay, like you're not a fucking game show host. Like delete that, don't write that. Don't hurt the other sellers. There's no reason to put down other sellers. You might get butthurt about that they're doing better than you. That goes into the patience and trying harder and not trying harder because you can't really try harder at taking a picture, right? Well, I guess you can. There's another point for anyone that's thinking of selling clear pictures. Yeah. No one wants to buy a card that looks like you're taking it inside of like a Siberian bat. We're like, you see some photos and it's like maybe they were eating breadsticks or something, and or pizza, and there's like an oil sheen on the camera lens, and they're taking the picture, and I'm like,
That does not look
no,
good.
dude, like
I don't want that
I don't
car.
know. I know you're usually it's a kid. So I'm like, a younger guy, and I'm like, hey, dude, Lightbox, Amazon, super cheap, $29. There's thousands of them on there, and they are cheap. And my wife thought it was silly as shit when I bought my first one. She's like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, it's a Lightbox. And she goes, okay. And I take a picture, and she's like, all right, that actually looks more professional. Yeah, there you go.
They're great.
Boom.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. Change the background colors. I do it once in a while just to change it up to differentiate. Sometimes if I see a lot of orange backgrounds, I'll be white. If I see a lot of black backgrounds, I'll be orange.
Yeah.
A lot of zigging when others are zagging, kind of thing. And make sure you're getting whatever you're getting the cards for. You're getting them at a price you think you're going to be able, if you're buying lots, which I do, like many other stack sellers do. Make sure you're getting it at a good cost for that seller. He's making some money. He's not sitting on stale product anymore, and you're able to actually move it. I have cards that I have like a Mike Bibby Spectra to 10 that I saw at a show, and I'm like, yeah, I'll throw it in the lot. That's sick. It's to 10. It's Mike Bibby. It looks badass in a picture. I'm thinking easily going to sell right away as soon as I post it. Nope. Threw it on eBay last night just because I'm like, okay, sitting here too long.
Yeah.
And you'll find many cards like that. You'll be like, oh, this is awesome. People are going to love this card. And then it just sits and sits and sits, and you repost, and it doesn't move. And I don't get discouraged. I just go, okay, don't buy any more of that guy, for right now. Unless I get somebody really harping on it. Those are some of the best tips, and the patience and just being consistent, because consistency got me people that started looking for me.
Yeah. And
when I take my like big month lulls, or I take a couple weeks, I probably feel it more than my customers do. They're probably like, thank God this guy's not posting any fucking cards that I actually want. My wife's going to kill me. Look at some of how the other stack sellers are doing it, tweak and peek their ideas, because there's stuff you see that you don't like, and you need to remember that as well. You can't just be taking all the good shit. You got to look at, I don't really like how somebody responded to somebody else. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that. Or I'm going to send my cards. Every single card is, I'm going to keep finding other things. I told you I'll start going off on a rant.
No, this is all good. I'm checking off other questions that I have as you speak, so keep it coming.
And, I remember I was sending cards the first time, and I didn't even know what like a sandwich was, so taking, also never use fucking Scotch tape. All right, let's just take the Scotch tape, save it for Christmas, people. Christmas. There it is. Painter's tape. It's a little more pricey. Incorporate all those costs into how you're selling the cards, right? Mm-hmm. And that's so, if you're sending a slab to somebody, you can put it in cardboard, wrap it. Sometimes I don't even know if that's doing much. The slab is already pretty hard. A piece of cardboard, if it's really going to crack that slab, something's probably going to hit that cardboard and fuck it up anyways. So you can go that extra mile and do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I remember I used to take pictures of everybody's stack before I sent it to them. And I was spending hours. Shipping took me forever. And you kind of got to get a good process down of, so, all right, I'm going to do my sales these nights. These are how I'm going to charge people. This is how I'm going to invoice them. This is how I'm going to get their cards to them. How much is it going to cost me to buy all these bubble mailers, buy this tape, top loaders, penny sleeves? Man, I remember when top loaders, you couldn't even get them. Yep. And that was like a fucking, I remember I was stack selling, and there was a point where I was buying cards in bulk, and they were coming, not even penny sleeves, some of them. They were just coming in, cards, right? Which totally fine. They were, it was coming in, shoe boxes. So they were protected enough. If a card was fucked up, I'd just give it away. Um, but I remember there was times where I'm like taking out my own PC cards and taking them out of top loaders to send people their cards because I'm like, well, I'm not sending them a fucking card just ting-tinging around in the mail,
Times are rough.
If it's I mean, in every card, if you're sending, this is a personal opinion, at least should be in a penny sleeve and top loader, I just found, hold on. Here's that Bibby, by the way.
And you
Cool
said that's
card,
up on
the
eBay,
10.
right?
Yeah, it's on eBay now, man. I actually had a Mike Bibby super collector hit me up last night, and he's interested in it. But we'll see. But that's eBay. I wanted to be like, can you just go to Twitter, man?
Right.
Can we avoid all this fees and whatnot? So yeah, those are all things that you kind of have to, I would say, know beforehand, because if you got that in place, you can be so much more fluid and good at what you're doing, which is you're providing people with cards that, let's face it, every single person that's a buyer on Twitter can leave you tomorrow and they can go to a card shop, a card show, go back to eBay, go to whatnot, and buy their cards from somebody else. Yeah. So if you're not you got to be, I think even if you're just selling here and there, you should be semi-professional about it. How you're invoicing them, all that. Now, you don't need to do the whole, you bought from me before, and I used to type that all out and take a picture and all this. And I said, no way. I'm an Excel wizard. So I made the spreadsheets and did the thing. And now I send those, and I feel like when people get them, they go, oh shit, this is like legit. Not like just buying fucking cards from Paul on the street corner here or outside of the Walmart. So yeah,
I think we
you
okay. You blipped
to
there
put you
for a
competitive
second.
with
Yeah.
oh sorry to make you competitive with the next guy, because it's, even if they're your friends, they're still business competition, right? And there's only so many 2020 base Prism LaMelo balls you're going to be able to sell. At one point, everyone's going to have them, And why does a person want to buy another one from you? Oh, because he seems like a good guy or girl. He gets my shit to me on time. Never really had a problem. And if you do have a problem, deal with it the best way you can. I've missed cards in people's stacks. I've sent their stacks out and missed a card. Hey man, I've gotten the DMs. Hey bro, missed a card. Oh shit, so sorry. I got it right here. Or I literally can't find the card. I go, hey, I'll refund you, throw you a $5 credit in the next sale just to make it right. I've missed, it literally just happened last sale. I had a Justin Herbert purple shock. I didn't see there's like a faint print line above his, like under his kneecap or something. I didn't see it. Buyer buys for me all the time. Have never had an issue. And usually I'll disclose that. That's another thing. Sellers, disclose the flaws, that you see. Now, if there's something in the light that you don't got that weird tool out and you're fucking doing this thing at a card show, then you miss that. Hey, no fault on you. But if it's a print line or something like that and you missed it, which some people do, I did, just make it right. And I told him, I was like, hey bro, refund, send it back, we're all good. Boom, card came back. I refunded him, card came back. But that's a part of the customer service, and he still does business with me to this day. Like, he bought for me the other night. But if I would have been like, well man, fuck off, you got to keep the card, like, you just lost a valued customer that's spending their hard fucking earned money on you. Like, they're not spending on you, but you know what I mean? Like, it's somebody's money, and like right now, man, the margins are tight and money's important. And for people, I'm super thankful for people that are even buying one fucking card from me. My wife can't believe it. She thinks it's insane. This, going back to $4 or going back to when I was ripping that skybox, she's looking at me like I'm a crazy person. Now she's, I send her money every month and she's like, okay, this is crazy. I never thought you were going to be able to do something like this with cards. So yeah, those are my biggest, those are the biggest takeaways from starting off as a stack seller. And then don't try to do too much at once. I guess that's another good one, because you can just get burnt out or overwhelmed. And you'll be like, man, I'm not selling anything. Okay, it's going to happen. That's a part of not being over leveraged. If you're not over leveraged, then you lose that stress of, I'm not selling anything, other than the competitiveness. Now, I'm highly competitive, and if I have a shit sale, I'm going to be like, God damn it. Like, what did I do wrong? Are people not seeing my stuff? Or, what can I do to make it better for people that they want to buy from me? And I have talks with my friends all the time, like, fuck, man, it was a slow night last night. I'll get into bed with my wife and she's like, how was it? And I'm like, it fucking sucked. And she's like, really? What do you think it is? I'm like, I have no idea. Then the next night I'll do something, or I'll sell at a time that's not my normal time, and it's amazing. It's just take, boom, 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 and I don't know what's going on. So there's no rhyme or reason there. So you really got to try to take the frustrations, put those in a box, and use them to fuel your next thing that you're going to do. Yeah. And that's my rant. I'll see you guys later.
No, yeah. Listen, I think all that was just super valuable information. As you were talking, I was writing down follow-up questions because I didn't want to miss it, and then you eventually circled back to it. So don't apologize for the rant. I mean, it was okay. For those of you watching, you may have to rewind that, because some of the things that Paul just mentioned was either something that I personally overlooked. I've only done 2 stacks. Actually, I've done 2 stack sales, and some of the things you mentioned, I just didn't even recognize up until the point where I actually did it, and I was like, oh man. I just dug myself so deep because I have so much to do. So a few things that I want to, just touch on before we transition here is one, either my preference or my recommendation, if you are going to sell on Twitter, try to buy some stuff first and kind of see what people are doing. Pick out the benefits or the strengths of some other people. Find your originality though. But you need to understand what the kind of flow is in order to buy and sell on Twitter before you actually get there. So I would definitely recommend finding some stack sellers and buy some cards just to see, kind of taste what they're doing, right? I would also echo what you said in that understand how much time it's going to take to do a stack sale, because you are saving time from listing descriptions on eBay by just simply posting a photo. But on the tail end, if you're not tracking those sales and everyone submitted their payment, buddy, it's tough to track buyers for specific cards. So if you're not doing it in the moment, or however you want to do it, just make sure you're tracking sales, because if you're doing a month-long sale and you're going back in your tweets to see who bought what, oof, that was brutal. That's one of the mistakes that I made. And one thing that I wanted to kind of also tap on was the fact that you kind of use the Excel spreadsheet as sort of like an invoice, right? People can do it in different ways. John's laughing because I love Excel as well. That's kind of what I do. I tip my hat to you because yours was extremely clean. I haven't got there myself, but I'm not very in depth with stack sales quite yet. But that is such a great tool for traceability, not only for yourself, but also for the buyer, because they might be like, oh man, it's been a month long. I've claimed 60 cards. I have no idea what I got now. So I think that's extremely important, and I think that's great information. I will say stack selling on Twitter is so much fun, okay? Even if you're selling a few cards, but it is so much fun to kind of interact with people and see what other people like from your collection or from an investment standpoint. So enjoy the process. I would echo what you said as well. Don't get discouraged if your sale isn't popping off, as if you're comparing yourself to somebody else. patience is a virtue. Just keep on plugging away, and eventually, if you have cards that are cool, that are quality, and that are good price, because a lot of people on Twitter are looking for deals, they can easily go to eBay to buy that card. Give them a reason to purchase it from you. So that's my 2 cents. I'll step down from my soapbox. I'm gonna ask you one final question, Paul. And I know that you and I talked about this privately. Tell everyone about this upcoming podcast that you have. What's it about? When does it start, man? Tell us.
So when I was in the Navy, I like talking, obviously, and I would drive about 40 minutes to work every day, and like most, I'd be sucked into Rogan's podcast, just listening. And man, these are so good. And then I, fell into other ones, Andy Stump, a few other people that I kind of like really religiously listen to, and I kind of would do during the pandemic. I'd do these Zoom calls with my buddies in California, in San Diego, and we would drink, smoke cigars, and just talk. And that ended up, sometimes we were on there for 4 hours, just talking. And I'm like, man, this is like a fucking podcast. And I was kind of toying with the idea and talking to my wife about it. She's like, yeah, that'd be cool. Why don't you try it? And I kept toying with the idea. And then one night I came up with the name in one of those half, drunken, cigar smoking nights. And I was like, Tasty Brains. The Tasty Brains podcast. That's what it's going to be called. And my buddy goes, that sounds fucking cool, man. And I'm like, yeah, you're my friend. You're supposed to say that, And so I sit the next day. The next day I'm sitting down at the breakfast table, and I start drawing the logo. And it's a brain, and it says Tasty Brains on there. And I don't know why I like that name. It just kind of stuck with me. So I got a graphic designer, did the thing. And then it just kind of took a little bit longer, because stack selling takes up like 80% of my bandwidth. Keeping it organized and all that stuff. It's no joke if you're going to do it right. And if I had another person, the podcast would already be going. Like if I had another Paul, we'd be rocking already. So finally, a friend, also a buyer on Twitter, his name's Mike. I told him, I'm like, yeah, I've been looking at doing podcasts, and he already does them. And he kind of gave me some pointers of what to buy. I did some little YouTube deep dive on equipment and all that stuff. And the podcast, basically, first episode, I'm hoping is going to be next week. I have a fantastic, great first guest that I'm not telling anybody who it is. One of my buddies knows. Also another stack seller, Repeat Cards. He's another good guy to check out. And if you need product, Frank J is another great guy if you're trying to buy boxes of cards. If you don't know who Frank J is on Twitter, he's a fuck ton of hobby boxes. It's wild. And it's just going to be about everything. It's not just a hobby podcast. And it's not going to be Joe Rogan. And it's not going to be, you name it, workout guy podcast. I love all these things. I love cards. I love to work out. I love alcohol, mostly beer. I do love an occasional donut. CrossFit especially. I love CrossFit. There's so many things I like, and I want more information on it. And I feel other people are out there that they don't have the time to talk to somebody for 2 hours, that I will rock and roll with that and see how it goes. But, that goes right into the same thing, consistency. Podcasts are just like stack selling. If you ain't consistent, nobody's going to find you. No one's going to want to listen to you. People rag on those sports card radio guys, but, they bust out the content, man. Backyard, the antithesis to sports card radio, they bust out the content. Yeah. You can't compete with guys like Jake Paul, on Impulsive, or Andrew Schultz and these other guys if you're not consistent and you're not trying to go all in and try to be the best at what you're doing. I've never interviewed a soul in my life, but I talk to a lot of people. And I feel like if I can just talk, we can talk and have a good time.
Yeah.
I wish it could always be in person. I think that would be way better, way more awesomer. Whatever poor English I got to use.
That fits.
I wish I could fly people out like Rogan does. I mean, that's got to be so much better for him. Like you could even tell, during his podcast during COVID, they were kind of janky, even for like the number one dude in the country, in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tasty Brains podcast. Hopefully we'll start next week. Super cool first guest, I think. That'll probably surprise some people as, he's in the hobby, that's for sure. A very well-known person in the hobby. And it should be pretty cool. Worldwide hobby, not like stack selling. So,
okay.
Well, at least US-wide. He's well-known. If you know about cards, you probably know who the guy is. And he's given me a little bit of his time, so I figured, well, fuck it. That's a good way to start. Let's rock and roll. Only reason I don't want to say his name because I haven't given him an exact day and don't want to be like, yeah, he's coming on the show. And then you guys will be like, fucking liar. You're lying. So, yeah, I'm super excited about that. My wife is super worried that it's going to take away even more time because stack selling and organizing cards and invoicing and sending cards and packaging all takes time. So I have a 5-year-old daughter who, requires maximum effort at all times. And, yeah, I'm hoping it's great. If I could be 1% of Joe Rogan or Pat McAfee, I think everything will be right as rain.
Yeah. Those are
because that Pat McAfee guy,
he's good.
Dude, he is fucking taking off. Like, yeah. I think he's on a meteoric rise. He just needs to tap into other sports. He's so good at the football.
Well.
Maybe just throw some basketball players in there that don't know shit about football, have them talk about football. I mean, he crushes it, and he's funny as all hell. So, yeah, that's kind of what it's going to be about. Everything.
And where are you actually going to be releasing the podcast so that people that are listening?
Great question.
Yeah, you didn't give us that. That's essential.
I know. I don't know. I mean, my buddy Mike, who's he also produces podcasts. He's kind of going to be my little tree to lean on for those kind of things. Like, how do I get it out? How do I publish all this content?
Yeah.
Definitely I want to be on YouTube and doing that kind of thing. Twitch, I guess, mostly YouTube. I think YouTube is the king, and even though there's a gabillion people doing podcasts on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts, I think that's the spot. That's the spot to grow, and it's like eBay, man.
Yeah.
I can't sell this fucking Mike Bibby card to save my life on Twitter. Sure enough, first night I posted on eBay at 11 o'clock at night, I'm getting, hey, man. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Why weren't you? How did you not see this? There's my frustrations. But and
probably Mike Bibby's mom.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was a good ball player, Yeah. But yeah, I hope it's good. It's one of those things that I have to be. Just like the podcast, I have to be okay with $4 for the first sale. Mm-hmm. Not feel like it's easy to look at like CrossFitter. People that work out do that shit all the time. They look at like CrossFitters. They look at like the top dude, Rich Froning or someone like that. You YouTube a Rich Froning video and you just watch him work out, like push-ups, and he'll be doing burpees and thrusters, a barbell movement or something. And he's just flying through it, looking like, yeah, just doing a workout. Like, okay, it took him 7 minutes. I could do that in 7 minutes. And then you do it. It takes you 45 fucking minutes. And you're like, well, what the hell is happening? But you do those comparisons, which I very much used to do when I first started working out years ago, many, many moons ago. I used to compare myself to these people, like you're bodybuilding, you're comparing yourself to Schwarzenegger. Like, dude, you are fucking light years away from that guy. Not that you can't get there.
Right.
But let me tell you, Chris Middleton's never going to be LeBron James. As much as he might look at him and think, I can dribble a basketball, I'm good. It's like, no, you're not. You're good. You're good. You're better than me, that's for damn sure, and better than 99% of the people in the world. You ain't LeBron or Kobe or any of those guys. No offense. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna have to stay humble.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's make sure that we follow up before next week so that we can plug in your information onto this video so that people can just go down to the link in the description. So we'll make sure that we follow up with Paul for any of those viewers that want to check out his first podcast. Technically second, first of his own.
Yeah, that's
podcast.
right. Technically second.
Yeah. So
it's funny because my buddy Mike was like, dude, you need my help tomorrow? I'm like, well, I'm actually only a guest. And he's like, oh, okay, good.
Well, we will do our best to make sure that everyone on our platform knows about that going into it. Because, Paul, we really appreciate your time coming in here and just answering all these questions. Again, for any of you viewers that do know a little bit about Twitter sales or, don't know anything about it, there is so much gold within the content that he just stated. And honestly, it provided me benefit. And if I was a new seller, it would provide me a ton of benefit. So, Paul, once again, thank you so much. Today is November 11th. So, Paul, thank you so much for the service. We appreciate your commitment and sacrifices, man. We also appreciate the time that you sacrificed by joining us today. So, once again, next week, Tasty Brains, right?
That's right.
Tasty Brains next week from PaullyDoughnuts. We'll drop all of his social.
You won't forget it now.
Won't forget it. So we'll drop everything in the description below so that anyone can reach out to Paul. And then once again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I'm wondering that optic mega box behind you is screaming my name. I'm just like, man, got to open that up there.
That's what these guys say. They don't have any. Cody gets a box and it's gone like within 5 minutes of the mailman coming. Yeah. He's opening on the way in the door.
Yeah.
Are you?
I can't even bring it home. If I get it at the store, I'm in the fucking car.
It's a problem.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
It is.
But all right.
Thanks again, fellas.
Thank you so much. All right.